Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Vulvarine bassist Robin Redbreast to the podcast. The new Vulvarine record, Fastlane, is out now on Napalm Records. Robin talks about the lack of music scene in Austria, how Vulvarine formed and the inspiration for the band's name, being an all-female band, and we also talk about what was at the time the band's upcoming tour with Thunder Mother and Cobra Spell and the dynamic of that lineup in the music industry. Make sure you check out Fastlane. It's a super cool record. I highly recommend giving it a spin. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome. You can find links in our show notes or over at asthestorygrows.com for our mailing list, our Discord server, and our Patreon page, where you can get early access to every episode for $1 a month. Enjoy today's conversation with Robin Redbreast of Vulvarine.
Thanks, I'm good. I'm a bit tired at the moment because we just came back from tour. Yeah. But getting there. Catching up on some sleep at the moment.
Nice. You're in Vienna?
Exactly.
Nice. Did you grow up in the city?
Yeah, actually I did.
Nice. What was growing up like?
In Vienna, actually pretty cool. It's I always say it's not too big of a city, but also not too small. So you have lots of things to do, but at the same time, it doesn't feel as overwhelming as, for example, London or Berlin would. So Sure. It's really a good size.
What got you into music?
Honestly, I started playing the piano when I was 7 years old. And I really had that wish way before that. Like when I was 4 or 5 years old, I asked my mom to get me a piano because I needed it so badly. And then when I was 7, she actually did. And then I started taking classes for 10 years until I finished high school. And somewhere along the way, I picked up the guitar and then I picked up the bass and then all the band thing happened. And that's pretty much how I got into music.
What kind of led you to bass? Was there just like you knew how to play guitar, but there was already a guitar player, so you just kind of went to bass?
Actually, when the band Vulvarine started out, I was a guitarist first. But sometime before that, I had sort of an epiphany that I really desperately needed to start to play the bass. Don't ask me why. It was just a sort of spur of the moment thing because I woke up one Sunday morning, and I turned to my partner and I said, "Dear, I think I need to start to play the bass now." And then he was just like, "Okay, sweetheart, go for it," And then it started from there. I don't know. And then, I started in Vulvarine as guitarist, but then we had a lineup change and I switched to the bass, which was the best thing that could happen because it's the perfect instrument for me. So
yeah. What type of music when you're like a teenager? Are you getting into like rock or punk or heavy metal, or are you just like more focused on classical or pop as a piano player?
Actually, I was very focused on classical music, but only in playing the piano, not like really enjoying it on my what was it called, iPod back then or whatever. I always actually was into rock music, so ever since I can remember, like buying my first records, I think from the age 10 or 11, I started out with mostly classic rock. So the Rolling Stones were a really, really big deal for me. And it just kind of developed from there, like from classic rock, I went into hard rock and then into metal. So it's a pretty good mix of everything. But of course, I also had my punk rock phase when I was like 16 or something. So yeah, but the main thing for me, or like the genre where I feel most at home, would be 70s hard rock, I guess.
Okay, that carries through in the band for sure. What was the music scene like in Vienna when you're a teenager? Was it like a good local scene with lots of bands or touring bands coming through, or was it just like, I don't know, a struggle as a music fan?
Yeah, no, actually, it wasn't good at all. Like from at the time where I started going out in the evening with my friends, like past curfew and stuff. There really was not a lot of concerts, not a big underground scene. You could go to like big main concerts in the stadium and stuff, but that's not as interesting as watching local bands, right? So there wasn't a big deal about this in the city, or in fact in the whole country. And it only started to really become alive again in the past, I would say 6, 7, maybe 8 years. So, but now you can really feel that there's a lot of new young bands just starting out and really trying to be part of this scene. And it's really great because there's been sort of a drought for a very long time. So yeah, it's good to see that.
Do you think the internet has kind of helped create that, where people can see other scenes elsewhere in the world, or easier connection to music and learning to play instruments, that has created that refreshed music scene?
To a certain extent, probably yes, it has, but I don't think it's the only reason. So I think particularly in Austria, there was like 2 bands who really made it internationally in the last, like, that given time that I've told you, like those 8 years. They're called Wanda and Bilderbuch. And even though they make German music, I mean, like music with German lyrics now, they really made it. And I think this was very inspiring for the scene, because there was such a long time where nobody made it from here, except in like the classical music area. So I think this was really a sort of motivational factor for a lot of bands here. And then especially for the rock scene to be like, yeah, okay, I mean, this is nice and all, but let's do some more rock music now and see if we can make it too.
Let's talk about the band. How did Vulvarine get started?
Yeah, pretty much, knowing each other from going out, being out and about in the scene, going to concerts, and you just hang out, the people here. As I said, the city's not that big, like when you hit a certain few clubs, you will know the people who are there. And then we just decided it's time to start a female rock band, because we didn't know any from Austria. So this is something we really wanted to do.
Was that always the intention, to just have an all-female band?
Was that always the intention?
With Vulvarine, yes, definitely.
What was the inspiration for the band name?
Well, it's basically a word play between the outer female genitalia, vulva, and the Marvel hero or character Vulvarine. And it's kind of, I mean, of course it's supposed to be provoking, and I guess to many it is. But that's part of the fun. And it definitely catches attention, which comes in very handy in a lot of, scenarios, be it a YouTube thumbnail or a festival booker who thinks like, what the fuck is this? And then they just click on it, and it helps.
Yeah, I know when the video, the first single from the new record came up on YouTube, it was like the name was the first thing that caught my attention, and I was like, well, that's a really great band name. I gotta check it out. So it works.
Yeah, I mean, why not utilize it? It's always cool to have a cool sounding band name, but then when you also manage to, grab some attention through the language of the name, then I think that's not a bad thing.
How has kind of the scene been for you guys in Austria, or touring as an all-female band.
Yeah, I mean, as I've mentioned before, I don't know of any other all-female band from Austria that started out before us. But at the time we started, we actually observed a lot of different groups from different European countries doing the same thing at the exact same time. I mean, not the same thing as in copying or anything, but like there was this shift, you know, and sort of, I don't know if it was coincidence or whatever, but at the same sort of time frame, a lot of female groups started popping up across all of Europe. And that was, I don't know, it felt pretty cool because there was this sort of momentum. And I think it's been keeping since then, you know, like it's not growing any weaker. And that's a great thing. But as you say, of course, the balance is still not there, but we're working towards it.
Yeah. You guys released Unleashed in October of 2020. I don't know what restrictions or lockdowns were like in Austria, but what was that process of releasing that album kind of into this pandemic world?
Yeah, I mean, luckily we weren't yet affected by Corona or COVID before we released the album, so we were able to really finish our studio work and all the production process. But it hit us when we released it and really wanted to actually go on tour, which we then couldn't do. So we played our release gig, which was already restricted, and there was only 200 people who could attend, and they had to, you know, be sitting down with masks and all this. But still, I mean, 200 people for that was also our first ever gig, you know, like the album release. And it was sold out, and that was pretty cool for a band just starting out, because everybody was really excited about this, you know. And but then we couldn't play any more shows after that. So the release really kind of didn't get the live attention that it deserved, or that we would have loved to invest in it, you know, because everything was closed. Like all the clubs were closed. There was no social or cultural events happening at all. So, yeah.
And there's new records out on Napalm Records, or coming out on Napalm Records. How'd you guys get connected with them?
Well, we, you know, finished the production of this new album. It's called Fastlane. It's coming out on the 28th of March. And as soon as we had the master files that we were able to present to people, we went label scouting. And we also contacted Napalm, and we talked to them. And of course, we do have some mutual connections as well, because it's an Austrian label. So, you know, when you're in the scene, when you're part of the scene and part of the business, you meet people, and you're always somehow connected to everyone here, even internationally, I would say. And it just felt like the right fit for us at the time now. And we're super excited about this deal.
Who came up with the concept for the album artwork?
That was actually our guitarist, Sandy. She's a graphic designer and an artist as well. And she's really like the core of what Vulvarine looks like aesthetically. Like all the artworks and all the like colors and the fonts and our social media, like all the visual stuff that's happening around the band is really directed by her hand, I would say. And then we get external artists and people, or photographers, or illustrators, or whatever, and really communicate our vision. And yeah, Sandy will kind of be the coordinator of all that.
Like you said, album's called Fastlane. Who came up with that title and kind of the concept for the record?
Yeah, actually, that was Sandy as well. She came up with the title. Of course, we were brainstorming and we had a lot of different options, but this one really seemed so fitting for this particular album because we very spontaneously decided to record it in such a short time. Because our goal was to have a new record on the road with us when we go on tour with Thunder Mother. Because this is a big tour. It's the biggest we've done so far. I mean, we're only the opening act, but still, this is 11 countries we're speaking and 26 shows and crowds of, on average, 1,000 people per night. So this is not an opportunity you want to, leave unused or and this is why we really got our shit together, as you might say, and recorded this thing as fast as possible.
I don't know how much this is like Susie's realm or whatnot, but like, what are the things that like are inspiring you as a band lyrically?
Lyrically, well, in fact, in the band, everybody writes lyrics, so it's not just the singer. I myself also write a lot, and what I can say, like things that inspire me, are definitely things that actually happened or things I dream about. So this might doesn't have to happen in reality, but it has to sort of, I don't know, be in my brain somehow. But then also, so I write a lot from personal experience, definitely. But I know that the others, Sandy, for example, is very inspired by like the, how do you say, society and its dark sides, let's put it like that. And then Susie, for example, has a more playful approach to songwriting or to lyric writing, and that might be more fictional, maybe. So yeah, it's different, but nothing out of the ordinary, I'd say.
Yeah. Album's out. You guys are about to head on this massive tour with Thunder Mother and Cobra Spell. I don't think I've ever seen a tour lineup like this that's, three all-female bands. How did this tour come together and like the importance of this lineup?
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to support Thunder Mother in 2023 for one show in Germany. Our bookers, they just kind of connected and they were like, hey, does Vulvarine have time to play this show? We would love to have them, So we went there and we played the show and we instantly clicked, like Thunder Mother and us, we were just, the chemistry was right, And when they started to plan the Dirty and Divine tour that we're doing now, the booker that they have, he proposed to make this package of Vulvarine, Cobra Spell, and Thunder Mother because it just makes sense. And as you say, we all do not think that a lineup like this ever existed in rock live history. Like, we did research on it, and I can't tell you, like, I found nothing. So I think this is really extraordinary what we're doing here, and you can feel that every night, and you can feel it from the crowd that this is something people are not used to. Of course. I mean, we're waiting to start the second tour leg now on the 20th of March. Then on the 28th, we release the album. Then shortly after that, we'll come home again from touring, do, all it takes to promote the new album. We have quite a few festivals lined up for the summer. But then we're also working on a headline tour for fall, winter. So this is where we, want to make the most of that release once again and revisit the cities that we've been to, but this time as a headline act and not as a support act.